Hey, I'm MJ.
And I'm Sean. And today I want you guys to think of a situation where you learned something from an unlikely source, whether that was a sibling or a complete stranger. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Yeah, Sean. So as you know, I'm a teacher, and sometimes I work with really young students. And the other week I was working in a kindergarten classroom when a young girl came up to me and she taught me something I didn't know about spiders.
So a kindergartner taught you something about spiders.
Yeah.
Well, when God wants to tell us something, he can work through anybody. And what blows my mind is that he can work through people whether they're a Jesus follower or not. And that ties in perfectly with today's big idea, that God can work through unlikely people.
Let's check out today's God story and see more what this looks like.
I'm gonna go here. Your turn.
I'm gonna go here.
Oh, stop you from winning.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, our friends are here. Online, are you gonna stay?
Oh, I'll go. Have fun.
Okay. Hi friends, my name's Paige. So one time my grandpa was running in a marathon, which is like a super long race. And he was getting pretty tired. Then people who were just watching him from the street, strangers, were giving him candy so that he had energy to keep going. So I wanted to share that story with you because today we are going to hear about how God can work through unlikely people. You know, the people that others might least expect. Our God story is all about God working through a very unlikely woman. But before we get to that, I want to make sure you know our big idea for today. God can work through unlikely people. Today, we're continuing in the book of Joshua. But just so you know where we are in God's story, let me just catch you up to speed. God told Joshua to get the people ready to cross the Jordan River and be ready to go into the promised land. God spoke to Joshua these amazing words. Be strong and brave. Do not be afraid. Do not lose hope. I am the Lord your God. I will be with you everywhere you go. From there, Joshua gave the orders to get the people ready to go into the promised land. But there were still people living in the land. In fact, Joshua had sent 2 spies to go and check out the city of Jericho. So the spies went to Jericho, and they stayed with a woman named Rahab. Now, Rahab was a very unlikely person to help the Israelite spies. She was known by the people in town as women who did things she shouldn't do. She lived a life that wasn't exactly her best. But Rahab did what she had to do in order to survive. The king of Jericho heard that there were Israelite spies staying at Rahab's house. When he heard this, he sent a message to Rahab to send out the men who came into her house. But Rahab knew she needed to keep the men hidden. So she said, "It's true the men came here, but they left at sunset in time for the city gate to close. I don't know which way they went, but if you go now, you might catch up with them." But she had actually hidden them up on the roof, under some flax she had piled up there. You see, roofs back then would have been covered with flax. Think like a kind of hay or straw. So the king's men went off to chase them, and Rahab went up on the roof to talk to the spies. She said, well, let's read. I know that the Lord has given you this land. We are very much afraid of you. Everyone who lives in this country is weak with fear because of you. We've heard how the Lord dried up the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt. Because of you, we aren't brave anymore. The Lord your God is the God who rules in heaven above and on the earth below. Even though she wasn't one of the Israelite people, Rahab knew that God is the one true God. Then she went on to make a request of the Israelite spies. She asked, let's read. Now then, please give me your word. Promise me in the name of the Lord that you will be kind to my family. I've been kind to you. Promise me that you will spare the lives of my father and mother. Spare my brothers and sisters. Also, spare everyone in their families. Promise that you won't put any of us to death. The spies promised her. They said, if you save our lives, we'll save yours. The house Rahab lived in was part of the city wall, so she let the spies down by a rope through the window and told them where to go and hide. The spies told her that for them to keep their promise to her, in order to keep her family safe, that she should bring all of her family into her home and tie a bright red rope in the window. Rahab agreed. They went away and she tied the rope at the window. Rahab, a very unlikely person, helped these spies in a big way. She saved them from what could have been death if they were caught. God worked through Rahab in this way. Now we're going to find out what happened to Rahab and her family next time. But before we wrap up, I've got to tell you something really cool. Another way God worked through Rahab. In the book of Matthew, the first book in the New Testament that tells about Jesus, we learn that Rahab is a part of the family line of Jesus. She was the great-great-grandmother of King David, and great times a whole lot grandmother of Jesus. God really can work through unlikely people. So, what does that mean for you and me? It means that God can work through us too. It also means that we should never count anyone out. God can work through all people, and we know that through many examples we see in the Bible, including Rahab. That's a great lesson for us all to hold on to. God can work through unlikely people. In fact, He wants to. He wants to work through me and you and you and you and everyone. Well, my name's Paige. I had a blast, and I'll talk to you soon.
I think God made a massive statement when He used Rahab as a part of His plan to get His chosen people into the Promised Land.
Yeah, in those days, women didn't have important roles in society. And Rahab specifically, she didn't have the best reputation. So by using her, God showed His care, His love, and forgiveness.
Absolutely. On a completely different note, do you happen to like choirs?
I sure do.
Well, then you're gonna love this story. Watch this.
I love music. It makes me feel alive. I like to play music, I play guitar, and I also sing in a gospel choir at my school. I love to dance and groove, and yeah, I just really love music. Something that I also love are movies, and I love movies especially that are about real-life stories and about people who've gone through some hard times and been able to come out victorious in the end. And one of those movies that really inspired me is called Gifted Hands, and it's about a man named Ben Carson who was a neurosurgeon. He was the first person to successfully separate conjoined twins, and they were joint at the head. Watching that movie really inspired me because I got to see someone do something amazing and give these two children life and this family a new start, and that really inspired me to want to do neurosurgery as well. So once I decided that I wanted to do neurosurgery, I ended up applying to neuroscience at 5 different universities. And then I was touring universities, and something came up that I wasn't expecting. We ended up touring Queen's University, and we have some family in Kingston. And so we were sitting down to dinner, and I was explaining what my future plans were and what I was going to be doing. So I was talking about neurosurgery, and this one cousin looked at me and she said, well, you must want to study the brain in depth for the rest of your life, like one thing in a lot of detail. And she said that to me, and I just had this moment of like, no, that's not what I want to do. I've never thought about it like that before, but that's not really what I am interested in. I'm interested in the whole body. And so that really started me on a path of trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. After I had this conversation with this cousin, and when we were in Kingston, I was just thinking about what am I to do now? I've applied to science everywhere, and it was too late to apply to something else. All of a sudden, a lot of people were talking to me about nursing, and it was out of the blue. I didn't ask about it, but these friends of mine were just talking to me about it. I asked God, I was like, God, I feel like this is coming up a lot. If this is what you want for me, then I will follow you. And so I kind of started on the path of what it looks like to join the nursing program. So I started my first year of life sciences at McMaster, and as I was going through the year, I was looking for ways that I could transfer into the nursing program. And I went to the admissions lady and was talking to her about the possibility of switching. She said to me, there's no really point in trying because they only accept like 13 transfer students out of 400 applicants. I thought, okay, well, that's slim chances, but I knew that this is where God was calling me, and so I just prayed and trusted and asked Him to open the doors if this is where He wanted me to go. On my last day of university, first year, I was helping my roommate pack her stuff and leave, and I just checked my email as we were kind of packing things up, and I saw an email from the nursing program at McMaster, and it said that I had been accepted after I had applied to transfer. And I screamed, and we all screamed, and like we're very excited together, and just thank God for opening that door for me. Looking back at this whole experience, I see where God was working, even when I didn't see it in the moment. I was planning to go to a different university before I visited the mall, and then by the time I visited the mall, I knew that McMaster was where I wanted to go. And through that, I was able to find out that McMaster has one of the best nursing programs in all of Canada, which kind of makes sense for me to transfer into it by choosing McMaster. And then also I found the gospel choir, and I'm able to sing with them. I have this great community, and we dance and we sing every week, and it's just a really great time. And so I see how God was working and how He's really brought so many blessings into my life. It's been 4.5 years later since I started my university career, and I'm now a graduate of McMaster's nursing program. I graduated in December, and I also have a job. So I'm officially registered nurse, and will be starting at McMaster Children's Hospital on the pediatric oncology ward, so kids with cancer. So it'll be a really exciting new challenge, and I'm excited to see where God brings me.
Emily's story is cool, but that choir gets me fired up. The way they harmonize and their passion and energy is so amazing.
Yeah, and you can see that Emily really loves it.
She sure does. It's so cool to see how the choir is one thing that happened as a result of one thing that somebody said to her.
Yeah, exactly what we were saying earlier. God can work through people we don't even know or people we don't even expect it from. Let's break into our small groups now and see what this looks like in our lives.